Biggest mistake business owners make is thinking they need to reinvent the wheel.
Most people don't realize that all the successful companies are running the same core systems.
That's why we're hosting the Home Service WhoHire, September 7th, 8th, and 9th in beautiful Pensacola Beach, Florida.
We're giving away the exact systems, playbooks, and operations we use to scale to multi-seven figures.
You're learning from real business owners that have been there and done that.
People who are in your exact position and scaled their business without losing everything.
Tickets will sell out, so register now at homeservicewhohire.com. Again, that's homeservicewhohire.com.
Running a home service business is hard. So how is it that some people make it look so easy? Well, we'll tell you. This is the Freedom Blueprint Podcast. It's always good to hear the wins that successful contractors have. But have you ever thought that the best advice would be to hear about the speed bumps they encountered, the mistakes they've made along the way? We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We want you to be successful and avoid the mistakes others have made. Let's get this party started. Welcome to the Freedom Blueprint Podcast. Now your host, Justin Deese.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Freedom Blueprint Podcast. I am hanging out today with Jonathan Whistman. Legend, man.
Oh, thank you.
Legend. So we actually got connected from a mutual friend, Doug Wyatt. Doug, thank you very much. He's a big friend of the show. Had him on the podcast. He comes to our, he's just a super good dude.
He is a super good guy.
And then he said, hey, you got to read this book. And I read your book, The Sales Boss. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see this really cool sign we've got behind us. And
you a gift from my business partner for my birthday. She's like, you need a neon sign. I'm like, great.
What's really cool. And we're in this just really cool office building and overlooking, this is a really cool place. So
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time to come and hang out. I know you got a ton going on, and I'm excited to dive in and talk a little bit about your story, your journey, where you are now and where you're going to be very soon. So thank you so much, man.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And we have in common that we both traveled in RVs. So we've got lots of great stories.
Yeah. So anybody watching this, if you've been following us, you know that we've been on a couple of week road trip to the RV. So we were in Vegas last week. This week now we're in Phoenix, which is one of my favorite places to be. Although it's March and it's going to be 105 or 6 today.
I know I went to walk here. It's about 2 mile walk from my condo to here. And normally this time of year, it's like beautiful.
Yeah,
I walk
80.
outside and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I should check the weather.
Part of what we love about Phoenix is hiking, and we always hike Camelback. Like that's one of our favorite hikes. And so we got here and we're looking at the calendar and we're looking at our time. And we're like, I don't think it's going to happen.
No, yeah. I keep saying the heat's starting earlier and earlier in the year, and it's lasting later and later. So if it starts chopping off another month of good weather, I might have to be rethinking the Phoenix.
Yeah, because 106 in March
That's hot.
That's hot. That is hot for sure. So, Jonathan, tell us a little bit about the book, The Sales Boss. Like, what was the inspiration to even write that book?
Yeah, so Sales Boss book was, I'd been working with customers. I'd had a little bit of business success. I had friends just ask me, hey, what would you do in my business if you were me? And you know how that goes. I was like, I don't know, you seem like you're doing pretty good, but if you let me bang around in your business, I'll tell you what I would do. And I just built a reputation for going in and really being able to say, what's the 5% difference somebody can make that can really change the trajectory of their business? And so all of my work really came from referral. Eventually, I was at a conference and Wiley asked me, hey, have you ever thought about publishing a book? And I was like, no, but I'll do it. And so the Sales Boss was born. It was published 6 years ago. It's in 6 languages. And I've always had a fascination with human potential. And what is the thing that causes humans to reach their potential? I just remember I was on a flight the other day, and right now AI is everything, right? So I'm trying to stay up to date.
Everything, yeah.
And I decided I'm gonna, and I'm not a technical person by trade, but I'm, I can get my hands a little bit dirty. And I was like, I'm gonna program an app from the time I take off in Nashville to the time I land in Phoenix. And I'm gonna do it on airplane Wi-Fi from 35,000 feet, and I'm gonna publish it and have my first sale before I land. I did it.
I like it.
So you can put it in your show notes. People can try it out. It's a really cool Valentine's Day, like interviews a couple and makes it a love song for them. But it was just a random, like to learn.
Yeah.
But it occurred to me, like, why could I do that? And the reason I could do that is because some human somewhere said, one, you should be able to fly at 3,500 feet. And they got enough other people thinking that. And somebody else thought, you know what, I think you should have internet while you're flying, because why not? And they got enough other people. And like, that's human potential realized.
Yeah.
Is somebody having an idea, operating at their full potential. And those are the same sort of people that show up in our businesses. And yet I think you get a group of contractors together, or any business for that matter, even outside of home services, but especially in home services. And it isn't more than 15 or 20 minutes when you have owners and they're like, oh, I got people issues.
Yeah.
It's like the hardest part of the business. And yet it is the same. They have the same humans that decided we should have Wi-Fi at 35,000 feet. The difference is, have you built the ability to transform humans from where they show up to what they're capable of doing? And anyway, that's sort of the nexus of the whole Sales Boss book. I use a sales boss to describe a sales leader that's operating in the top 1% of their industry.
Yeah.
And I used the term boss because at the time, everyone was saying, do something like a boss, like, style and flair. And I thought sales leader, sales boss. And I use boss as an acronym for performance. So if you have, somebody that's struggling in their performance, I always look at the 4 levers as behavior. Like for every role, there's behavior that has to be done.
Right.
So like sales, got to make phone calls or write proposals. It's not the quality of it, but there's a number that's normal to have a certain output. So behavior, look at somebody, has their behavior changed dramatically? I mean, if sales are off by 20%, their behavior's off by 20%, I could probably quit looking.
Right.
Behavior, outlook's all the stuff that's going on in somebody's head, right? About their market, their competitors themselves, their wife, their dog, whatever it is that's going on here gets in the way of performance. And then skills, like are they continuing to apply the skills that they have that are necessary for the job? Do they have the right skill level, or do they have a need to acquire a skill that they haven't yet acquired that's now necessary?
Yeah.
Right. And then the last S is always for strategy. So is the strategy they're following still a relevant strategy? And that became the blueprint over every company I went into to say, how do I transform their sales organizations? Just look at those 4 levers.
So what started the journey in sales in general? Like, what was how did you even get started in sales?
Well, I didn't really get in sales. So I've got in leadership, and leadership is about people.
Right.
I grew up in a religious cult. So when I say a religious cult, like full on mind control, control your life sort of cult, you leave your outcast cult. I didn't know any different. My parents, my aunts, uncles, everybody that I was associated with was in that. So I thought it was the truth. The normal. It's the way things are.
Yeah.
But it became a really interesting environment to see, how do people develop their identity? Right. So we would knock on doors and convert people, and like converting people, you're not paying them anything. Right. It's not like you have a sign-on bonus. Like most of the cases, they're giving things up. And then, by the way, they're going to go do what I was doing, which is donate 90 hours a month knocking on people's door, which, like, you look at the burnout rate in door-to-door sales, right? Like, it's high, and I did it for a decade. And I'm not unusual, but that created this environment. And then when I left that, and there was a reason that I left that was related to saving my son's life and a bunch of other things around that, coming outside of that and then really being able to go look back and say, how much of the way I saw, I'm so different now, I can't even like get back to go like, how did I believe that?
Yeah.
Like people would say to me, you're brainwashed. And I was like, no, I'm not. No, well, maybe I got a clean brain. Yours is dirty, right? Like so the stories that we tell ourselves, but coming out, having to remake myself and look at how did I get those beliefs? Which of them are truly mine? Which of them came from somewhere else? All of that became an interesting workshop for looking at other organizations. And so, I just got started in business. I got, continued to grow business. I had sold a business while I was in in the cult. But just applying that, like you go into an organization, be able to see how does the thing that's happening inside of this business actually happen? And it's all about humans.
Yeah.
Right. And so I just wrote a new book called Unrecruitable. It's how to build a team your competitors can't beat or steal. I co-wrote it with Andy Elliott. He's fastest growing sales and leadership development guy on the planet right now. He went
Yes, he is.
0 to 100 million in 3 years. He's tripled that in the last year and a half. And working together, he's going to hit $1 billion in the next year and a half. No question that that's going to happen. And it all comes down to people.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you influence people? And I think this is the formula. You want to hear my cult formula?
Absolutely.
I'm going to teach your listeners.
Wait, I want to add something real quick because for anybody listening, they're like, okay, well, I didn't grow up in a cult, so I don't get it. But I think the point that I want to make sure the listeners are getting on that too is it's not even religion, right? It's poverty. Like it's generational poverty. It's generational wealth. Like there's people that are just programmed a certain way that you kind of got to get out of.
Everyone has grown up in a cult.
Correct. That's exactly. Yeah.
Right. A culture.
Yep.
Something that controls the way you think, the way you respond, the way, like in my first book, The Sales Boss, I write, things are only good or bad by comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is everything that we encounter, we're judging it in relation to something else we've experienced.
Right.
It's a super simple example. I meet a lot of people like, I'm great at interviewing people. Well, the only thing they're comparing it to is the 3 interviews they've had in their life. Like they don't really know, right?
Right.
I remember the first time I was in a 10,000 square foot home, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in a mansion, because I grew up in a tiny single wide trailer. Good or bad by comparison, right?
Yeah.
I liken growing up in a cult, and I think your listeners could get this. Like imagine growing up in a small town, and everyone that you come across, I happen to have blue eyes, but so imagine though, everybody that came up to me and said, Jonathan, you have amazing red eyes. And we'd walk outside, they look up at the sky and they're like, what an amazing red sky. Like it wouldn't occur to me, like, I don't think the sky is blue because, it's like a belief. It's fact, sky is blue. My eyes are blue. If I had always grown around people calling them red, I wouldn't question that. That's what growing up in a cult is like. Now, if you didn't grow up in a cult, I guarantee you, your listeners grew up in an environment that shaped how they think about money, how they think about relationships, how they think about business, how they think about employees, and they just aren't aware of it. And the danger is they assume they have the correct view.
Right.
I tend to say the most dangerous belief a person can have is the one they don't identify as a belief, because to them it's true.
Yeah,
because
it's a fact.
It's a fact, yeah. Because I think people are good, right? And talented. So if we thought it was a problem, we thought we had a false belief, we would fix it. The problem is there are things that you're dealing with that you don't even identify as a belief. You just like, to you, that's the way it is. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Just like the sky's blue. So that's, anyway, I forget where we went, what we're going with that, but we're good. That's that sort of thing. So in the book Unrecruitable, which is about building a team, I think society has changed. Like the days of people going to work for a company and just like giving company loyalty because they're grateful to have a job it's just not true.
Exactly. Yes. Those days are gone.
That whole corporate, I'm going to
get the watch after 40 years.
None of that's true.
Yep.
Your owner of the business has to be a billboard for the business. Mm-hmm. Right? You're asking somebody to give their 20s and 30s to you. That's it. And yes, people hire people outside that age. I'm outside that age, so no ageism here. But like the bulk of our businesses are built in people in that age range.
Right.
And so you're saying to somebody in their 20s and 30s, you're saying, give me your 20s and 30s. And if you do that, you can be like me and my leadership team. These people are being sold that they can earn $200,000 a year sitting on a beach in Bali. Mm-hmm. So I tend to say, like with leaders, I'm like, try this to see if you're like the best billboard. If you had a group of 5 people you're trying to hire them, and you're going to see all of our leadership team naked. Like just turn around naked, show you our blood work, show you our health, and you would say, hey, give me your 20s and 30s and you're going to be like us. Like how many would sign up for it? If you did the same thing with your finances and you said, hey, here's my finances, like not what we say we have, but here's like the challenges we have.
Yeah.
Here's the ugly truth after grinding our life away. How many of those in their 20s and 30s would give you their life? If you said, hey, you come hang out in my home and with my wife and I, and observe our intimacy and our connection and look at the way our relationship with our children, would they give you their 20s and 30s? Mm. And that's how you have to build an unrecruitable team. Like the higher you can be on that to be the billboard for your business, society is leadershipless. So who do young people want to work for? Who do people in their 20s and 30s want to work for? They want to work for a mentor.
Yes.
Right? So people don't leave mentors. So in the book, and you're going to hear me quote myself a lot because it is the only benefit of being an author is you can quote yourself. That's it. There's no other benefit. But I say, people will work for you for as long as they believe they can do their best work of their life working for you. Mm-hmm. The minute that's no longer true, they're susceptible to a couple $1 more an hour, moving elsewhere. So that's the mission that you're on. How am I the billboard? How do I get people in? Then secondly, this is and I learned this from the cult. It is about thought control. And when I say thought control, if you can control how somebody thinks, you can control how they act. And I get people like, oh, wait a minute, thought control, that's bad. I'm going to teach you how to use it for good. Yes, you could use it for bad. But everybody's thoughts are controlled. Mm-hmm. So if you just had a whiteboard and you said, why do people in a business perform a certain way? There's a ton of research. People actually act a certain way because of their identity. So if somebody's identity is I'm an athlete, like you don't have to motivate them to eat right, work out, do that, because they're an athlete.
Right.
They're joining competitions, they don't have to have a goal of being an athlete, right? If somebody says I'm a Christian, like there's a behavior that goes with that. You don't have to motivate them to go to church, whatever. And you can put any identity there.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm a great father and I have that as strong as an identity, it shows up in the things that I do. So as a employer of human beings, what you really are after is the identity that people have. Like you can control like what is somebody going to do, what's their output, what's their process. But what's more powerful is if I can control their identity. And there's a ton of research that says people will change their behavior to match their identity, or they'll change their identity to match their behavior. Mm.
Yeah.
Super powerful if you can like simmer in that and get it. And it's actually a very simple playbook. And in the book, I write it paragraph by paragraph, play by play. If you run the playbook, guarantee you'll have a company like Tommy Mello's. He wrote the foreword to the book. You'll have like Andy Elliott, this ability to create sustainable performance in a company. It comes from identity. So the question is, how does somebody get an identity? There's a formula for it. It is action repeated. Action repeated produces evidence, and evidence creates your identity. So just use a super simple like fitness. Like if you're not fit, you start an action, right? I'm going to go to the gym. It sucks.
Right.
I'm going to eat right. It sucks. But if I repeat it often enough, it shows up as evidence. I start feeling better. I look better. People compliment me. Now I'm reinforcing. All of a sudden, that's my identity. Now I start publicly talking about my identity. Now that reinforces my identity. And then I start joining clubs, and then I start buying the shoes. And all of a sudden, right? Same thing if I go from, use the example of being Christian. I might not be, but I'll start going to church because something happened. And then all of a sudden I repeat it often enough. Pretty soon I get evidence because people start treating me like I'm a Christian. Mm-hmm. That's identity. So how do I plug that into a business? I have to control how somebody acts. And the question is, how do I control how somebody acts? So we go down to first principles. It's always if I can control how somebody thinks. Because if I can control how they think, it'll control how the feeling they have, and that feeling creates an action. And if I can get that first flywheel going in my business, think, feel, act, I got a human being that's doing this. And then the next human comes in, they see that, they have a thought, which creates a feeling, which creates an action. All of a sudden, and you've experienced that in your business, or you don't scale from 0 to 10 million in 3 years and exit.
Right.
Like you have to get the human part right.
Right.
That's it. So that's why we teach thought control. And thought control, in my book, I do a think, feel, act audit. And what I mean by that, if you're a business owner, and this will be interesting since you do consulting now, I actually had somebody, we sell a software that helps people with the whole hiring process.
Oh, we're gonna dive into that for sure.
But just as a framework.
Yeah.
So we have prediction models. It's based on a massive amount of data. I know it works. We've hired hundreds and hundreds of people. But I had a HVAC contractor in California actually calls me up and says, your algorithm's not working. We have massive churn, just like all the problems with people. And I said, well, the algorithm works. It's a you problem for sure. Like I have people being successful. This is not my problem. But I want to help people be successful. So we flew out to take a look at what's going on in the business. They have massive amount of churn with new technicians coming in. Within 90 days, people churning out. People that we're predicting is going to do really well. And you can immediately see the problem.
Isn't that interesting?
You can
you can go there.
Yeah, immediately I can see the problem.
The forest through the trees.
Yeah, but they're in their business.
Yep.
So we'll talk about what the problem was. But I take them to lunch. By the way, drives a really nice car, eats at a nice place. This is not the reality of the place that he has all his humans in. And we talk about this think, feel, act. And I say to the leadership team, because there's 4 of them there at the lunch, I'm like, what do you, like independently write down when somebody comes into contact with your business, what do you want them to think? Like just put it in a phrase, especially when they're considering you as a potential place to trust with their future. And I'm using that language specifically because I want to get away from this idea of human resources or employers, employee, because this creates a false narrative. Like the contractual thing we're doing is we're saying, you give me your 20s, 30s, whatever it is, and in return, you're going to get this thing. That's the contract that we're in. And you get contractors that burn through people. It frustrates me. And like, they're like, oh, well, good riddance. The trash took itself out. And I'm like, that's a human being who trusted you with their future.
Right.
That person's going to go home, kick their dog. Their kids are going to see they're depressed. They're going to be up at 2 a.m. going, what the fuck's wrong with me?
Yep.
That's a business problem. And I think being a business owner and a leader is like one of the most sacred things you can do.
You have a responsibility to let people know.
We should know.
They should know win or loss, where they stand at all times.
Well, and we should have created an environment that if they weren't a fit, we would have found that out ahead of time.
Right.
But once we make a commitment to them, we should have a system in place that can take that raw material and lead it to success. Now, I'm not saying things never go wrong and humans aren't responsible for their own behavior. But if you have a 30% churn rate, you have a problem.
Right.
And I'm in contractors' businesses that have a 200% churn rate. Like that's a contractor problem. This is not a human problem. It's their business. So first thing, what do you want people to think? One, the leadership team didn't agree. I had them all write it down, all different things. So you got to get your leadership team to say, what do I want? Eventually they settled on, we want people to think we create champions. So that's the standard. We create champions.
That's a good one.
What feeling do you want people to have? Well, you create champions, so I can trust you with my future. If I work hard, if there's going to be a payoff and reward for my family. They had all these good feelings. And what's the action you want them to take because of those feelings? Stay late, work hard, grind it out, do it, loyalty, all the good stuff, right? Like I don't have to paint the picture. So I think everybody listening to this podcast should do this think, feel, act on it. Get your leadership team, say, what do I want people to think? Because they haven't had this conversation. And your entire business is around thought control. Because if you control thinking, you control how someone feels, you control how they act. Actions, repeated over time, create evidence of an identity. The identity is what keeps people working. It's just a chain.
So we talk a lot about mission and vision, and that's an older statement, but it is important. But this is almost like a mission statement for your team.
Yes. However, it's actually more nuanced than that.
Okay.
It's thought control. Mission statements, bleh. Like, yeah, I gotta have it.
Yeah.
It's actually, what do I want you to think? It's a thought,
Yeah.
a really clear thought.
So what's a term to use besides thought control that would be?
I'm going to give you an example.
Okay.
No,
All right.
there's no other word. Get
Okay.
comfortable with thought control.
All right.
Like, don't sugarcoat. And everybody has thought control. You plug into CNN or you plug into Fox, your thought
Right.
control. Everybody's thoughts are controlled by something. Like, the best thing you can do as an owner is control people's thoughts. If I can control someone's thoughts and they end up being better fathers, husbands, wives, mothers, better community members, make better money, have different thoughts about their finances and their fitness,
Yeah.
like, this is a good thing.
I 100% agree.
I
Yeah.
want to control your thoughts. That's why you put out a podcast. You want to control people's thinking about how they grow their business.
I just would never use that term.
I know.
You're not wrong. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no,
It just
because,
seems like
look,
a very aggressive.
It is. We're saving lives.
Yes, that is true.
Look at the opposite side of it.
Yeah.
Like, this is serious business. People's inability to control thoughts inside their company causes people to churn out of their companies, causes them to go bankrupt, and they expel those humans into our communities. You think about, you have a young kid, comes in, puts himself through trade school. You're the first HVAC contractor he comes into, right? And he finally lands his first job. Who does he tell? His girlfriend, his mom and dad, his grandparents, like, I got my first job. And then you don't have a great training program in place. You don't have any way of mentoring this poor kid. 90 days later, you're frustrated. You kick him out the door. Then what?
Yeah.
Like, you forget about him. But he goes home and he's got to tell his parents and his grandparents and his girlfriend, and like his entire sense of self has been destroyed.
And there's a good chance in that scenario as well.
So
he doesn't even know why.
He doesn't know why.
Right.
He's confused. And he might carry that new identity with him for a decade. And you will have forgotten his name.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll have damaged the community. And I think when businesses do that, they damage our communities. And when we have weak communities, we have weak country. Like, that's it. Like, and I love our country. But a business owner spends more time with the humans than anyone else.
Yeah.
We have them in our business more than they're in church. We have them in our business more than they are in school. We have them more time than they're with their own family.
Mm-hmm.
So thought control to me is a good thing. But let's talk about practically, what do I do with that? So I'll just go back to the example I was talking about, this contractor, who I won't name, but if they're watching this, they'll know exactly who they are. Because they fixed it.
Yeah.
So it's not enough to say, what do I want somebody to think? The next thing is I have to audit. And I'm going to slice my business in micro fractions. And I'm going to judge every single piece of it standalone by itself. So come up to my building. If I just look at the outside of my building and they had to judge me 100% on my building, are they going to think these people know how to create a champion? An email that I send, if they had to judge me 100% on that email, would they think you can create? They're going to sit in your bathroom, in your lobby, your trucks, toolboxes. Like, this is the
Your warehouse.
This
Yeah.
is the thinking, right? So we're done with lunch. We pull out outside the building. They didn't know this coming. I said, great, we're going to tour your office. So we stand out in the parking lot. They're right on a main highway. I'm like, just look at your building with a fresh set of eyes, because you just walked by it after you've been there for a decade.
Right.
You're like, if somebody had to judge you just based on this, well, one, the parking lot was filthy, but the building sort of faded, and they had this vinyl sign strapped up to you've seen Contractor's Warehouse, right?
Yes, I have.
And it says in faded lettering, even torn, tattered, it says, now hiring, competitive wage, apply within. And then when you walk up to the doors here, and there's sort of a ramp up, there's like a dirty handrail, pitted sidewalk. And you get to the door and it's locked, and there's a wrinkled sign that says, buzz the buzzer to get let in. We create champions. There's a disconnect,
Yes.
right? You're not controlling somebody's thoughts. What's their feeling right then? And the problem is, if you dissect in this way, it becomes super easy to control someone's thought, and it's actually easier than you think. This company was spending over $20,000 a month on Indeed ads to keep up with the number of applicants that they would need because they were churning out people. And the fix for just that was less than 10K. So now you pull into the office. By the way, we did the entire office that way. I won't tell you about everything else because you'd cry.
I've probably seen it.
But you pull up now to the office, and now there are 3 big pictures, humans. They got Joe, Frank, Tina, I don't know what the names are, but they're humans, smiling, looking good, company uniforms. Underneath it says Joe was a waiter, $25,000 a year. Now is our head of operations, $135K a year, wife, dog, blah, blah, blah. 3 little bios, where they were, where they've been. Big sign that says, we create champions. Are you one? See us inside. You go walk up now, that whole walkway's been smoothed out, things. There's little signs all the way up that talk about what does it mean to be a champion. And it's painted red like a red carpet. And the line down the middle says, only champions tread here. Have they controlled somebody's thoughts? Like, you don't even have to be
That's
there.
pretty impressive. Yeah, that's just hearing it. I can picture it in my brain.
Yeah.
And
so
yeah, big difference.
Company A, company B, which one's going to have a lower churn? Which one is going to get the discretionary effort of the employee? And yet people just go, people don't want to work anymore.
There's no good people.
There's no good people.
Yeah.
Because they walk past their own garbage every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you were on dating apps and like you're swiping left and right or whatever people do these days, and you're like, nobody wants to have sex anymore. It's just not true. It's just nobody wants to have sex with you. Like, you're not attractive.
Right.
Like, if you're sitting in your business and you're going, humans don't want to work anymore, people don't take initiative, people are stupid, people are like, insert whatever it is. It's not true. They just don't want to work for you.
I
That's it.
1000% agree with that.
You have aged out of being relevant as an employer. That's it. The only way to fix that is to really look in the mirror and do this think, feel, act audit. And so I would encourage companies when they come to our 2-day Unrecruitable event, we really slice and dice that whole thing. Now, you could use good technology. There's been massive increase in what's capable with AI in terms of getting lots of humans in.
Yep.
As an example, our data suggests to get one person on your team in a home service company to operate at the top 5%, you're going to have to see 160 people in your hiring process to hire that one. It's physically impossible without great technology.
That is true.
It's just not going to happen, right? And the truth is, you do have to cast a wider and wider net to find people. That's the reality. But that's why contractors have this, they believe this 80-20 rule, just because they're not seeing 160 people. They're lucky if they're seeing 20 people to make one hire, because it's hard work.
Well, and half the time they're waiting until they're desperate to hire.
Yeah.
And then they're just,
speed to hire, got an empty truck.
Right, got to fill it. Here, fog the mirror. Yep, come on.
This is an interesting thing. One is the cost of a bad hire doesn't show up on anybody's P&L.
Right.
But if it did, it would be the single biggest hole in a company. I'll tell you why. Let's take a company, 10 technicians, selling technicians. Mm-hmm. In your business, what was a player? What would they produce in a year, or the people you work with?
About $1.2 million.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say $1 million. Okay. So $1 million is an A player. What does a B player produce?
About 30% less.
Yeah. So my experience has been it's around 600K.
Yeah.
Just the number I see. And it's different for everyone. And then your C players are sometimes around that 250K range. That's the difference. Mm-hmm. 10 people. In an ordinary company, and this across hundreds of companies we work for, whose data we know, you're going to have 2 A players, 6 B players, and 2 C players.
Yeah.
That's the makeup. Your hiring,
And that's if you don't have any DNFs.
Yeah.
Because you've let them hang around too long.
So, but your hiring process produces that repeatedly. The cost difference that with 10 players, round math, that's about $6.5 million in revenue produced by that 10-person unit. There's $4.5 million, 58% loss there versus if you could just hire A players. 58%. No more leads required.
Right.
No more training required. Like all of the stuff that churns in that B and C. Even if you just are able to move the C and avoid the C hire and move B, because like some contractors don't believe you can have all A. It's just not true. You go into Tommy Mello's company, 80% of players are A players. You go into Andy's business, 80% are A players. The others are B, well on their way to being an A. Like nothing else happens in that.
Right.
And by the way, their A player isn't $1 million a year. Their A player is $2 million a year. So what are
And
you,
enough A players, they'll smoke out the B and C because it won't even be acceptable to be anything else.
Here's the thing. If you really believed that as a contractor, that there was a single item that if you paid attention to would increase your revenue by 58%, your profitability, wouldn't that be if you're looking on a P&L and there's like this big 58%, you're gonna be like, let me go do that.
Right.
But you literally get people go, oh, I don't want to spend a couple of grand a month on great hiring technology. No, I'm not going to send my leaders to get trained on how to interview people. It's the dumbest thing ever. And business is so much fun when you have great humans.
It is so much more fun.
We had a contractor here in Tucson. We're in Phoenix, but in Tucson, we went down and see them. They had 30 open positions, struggling to fill them. They actually came onto our platform early on and then quit. Like, it's not working for us. So I was like, well, and then we were at a what do they call it? Mastermind. There's 12 other contractors there. 4 of the contractors there are great clients of ours. Are like, man, this is the best thing ever. And so I'm sitting next to dinner with a guy that didn't work out. And he's like, that wasn't my experience. I'm like, well, lots of reasons for that.
Right.
But if you come back in, we'll do it. Like, I won't charge you all the money that you spent with us. I'll let you, like, it's fresh cash. And let's just focus on like, because I want to fix, like, I want long-term clients, right? And so they came back onto our platform. And to be fair to the contractor, our platform got way better, right? Because every year we invest more money in it. And I'd probably made $3 million worth of more investments in our technology. So the technology was better. But we also taught them how to run what I call a talent reveal interview. My team went down there. We ran the first few for them. They filled all 30 of their positions that year. And when they get on a call now, I have videos from them. They're like, our most excited day in the office is the day we're interviewing and hiring people, because we know for a fact we're going to add $1 million worth of revenue to our business, like with certainty, and it's fun. Who says it's fun to hire? Like my clients.
The people that know how to do it,
Yeah,
right?
people know how to do it because humans are fun. So anyway, they're doing this, but they had such success. They came back and they invested $250,000 into my company to help me grow it. So from unhappy to like, I'm going to invest.
I'm all in.
Right?
Yeah.
But the reason I share that is this is a fixable problem. I don't care if you fix it with us or somebody else, but this idea that humans are broken, there are no broken humans. There are just broken environments. If you fix the environment and you can control how somebody thinks, and Andy Elliott as an example, he'll have people come in who were drug addicts. He's not going to hire them while they're a drug addict, but he'll say to them, look, go work here. I'll support you. As soon as you become the best player there, I'll bring you into my environment. And then his environment is so strong, he'll take that person and make them $1 million a year personal earner, like not sales, but their commission. It's not a broken human. You take any human, put them in the right environment over time. Now the question is, how dysfunctional of a human are you willing, like, can they improve in the timeline necessary for you for your business goals? But I believe that about every human, like in the right environment.
And do they have the willingness to do it? I think
every human has the willingness to do it. When they don't have the willingness to do it, it's because their identity has been so beaten up, bruised. Like it's a totally different thing if you go, there is mental illness, those sort of things. So I'm going to exclude the 0.5% where there's a true mental illness. Somebody's like functionally, like if you're missing 2 legs, you're probably, this is a problem. You're probably not going to run marathons. There are some that do, but so I'll use absolutes. 99% of people are not broken. They just had, and that comes from, in my background, I came out of a very violent, controlling, and I see people come out of that, and some people can bounce back and build a great life, and other people get stuck in drug addiction and homelessness. And even with my brothers and I, we have some of my brothers do really well, and other ones are on the street. It's an environmental choice,
right?
Am I going to stay stuck in an old identity, or am I going to be working from a future identity?
So let's shift over a little bit to WhoHire and the technology behind it, right? So give us kind of a high level on how that helps.
So 2 things that are important. So our technology, most companies are familiar with what they'll call an applicant tracking system. It's just like a file drawer for resumes. Right. So in our platform, it's technology. It'll help you write the job ad. We analyze thousands of job postings. So we help you craft the perfect ad. We tend to outpull 6-to-1 a traditional advertisement, but we're pushing your job ad then out to wherever your source is. So it might be Indeed or your social accounts or all that. But when a candidate comes in, our system immediately starts interacting with that candidate. So through text message, video, email, and it moves them automatically through a hiring process. And that hiring process can be matched to the whatever the contractor wants, but there's stages that go through that. And so we handle what I say 70% of just like the mind-numbingly dull work of HR, reminding people to show up for an appointment, telling people thanks, but no thanks. Our system handles that inside the system. It feels very human, but it's automated. So as an example, AI's come a long way. I can take a video of you, and every single candidate that comes in, I can analyze their resume and send a personalized video that looks and sounds like you to them, talking about their resume and encouraging them to go through the hiring process. So this candidate,
that's pretty incredible,
feels like
the
CEO just sent me a message saying he wants to talk to me, but I have to do these 2 automated things first. We treat it just like marketing, right? So like you're trying to get this universe of candidates and funneling them through a process. The truth is you have to cast a wider and wider net. So why do contractors, they realize, hey, if I advertise on social media, I'm probably going to get the person not looking for a job as opposed to the person on Indeed. I probably want the person that's not looking, but that's valuable. The problem is, without a system like ours, you push money into social and you do it right, you're going to get thousands of applicants, and there might only be 5 of those applicants you want to talk to. The others are like, the last beer in a 6-pack or smoking weed and just like slam the apply button.
Right.
Our system sort of filters all that out. Otherwise, you have this poor gal in HR going, I got 1,000 candidates on social media, none of them are good. Truth isn't that none of them are good. It's only like 5 in 1,000, right? But those 5 are gold. So our system helps find those. So that's one, just like the thing. But you could take all that away, and the beauty of our system is actually an algorithm. And I'll tell you how we have developed our algorithms. But that algorithm takes a candidate coming in, it's going to ask them a number of questions, and it's going to compare their future performance to people whose performance we already know. And we're going to give them a 0 to 100 fit for that role and a 0 to 100 what we call a flight risk. So how long are they likely to stay?
So is that position specific? So if I've got a tech,
it's position specific.
Okay.
So every tech, like if you're an HVAC company, we have a model that is a selling technician, an install technician, a comfort advisor, because there's nuances in how you're building your organization, what you're asking of that human. But the way we build those models, so for instance, when we came in, and we have them across a lot of industries, but when we decided we were going to be in the trades, working with Tommy Mellis sort of opened my eyes to there's this whole world out there that we can do. Great story of how we, and then I'll tell you how we build those. Great story of how I got the algorithm. I wrote the book, The Sales Boss. So I was out at a conference in Florida, and I'm a huge believer in personality assessments.
Yeah.
there's a bunch of them out there. Deese, Myers-Briggs, PI. People go,
Yeah.
oh, I love these assessments. And I write about them in my book. And I sold a bunch of them. Because it's just like humans are a puzzle. So like anything you can do to give me a clue of who is this person. So I was at a conference speaking about it, and this gal comes up to me afterwards. She's about this tall. Regina, she's my business partner now. She literally grew up in Taiwan in a rice paddy. No running water, no electricity. First of her family to go to college. She's an amazing data scientist, IO psychologist. And she just says, I think these assessment companies have it all wrong. I don't think a business owner really cares if somebody's introverted or extrovert. I think they care, if they come onto my team, are they going to be in the top 5% for performance? And are they going to stick around long enough that after I invest in them, I'm going to get a return? Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay. What are you doing differently? And she had created an algorithm, and she didn't have a ton of clients at the time, but they were all brand name clients. So she had Mercedes-Benz. For Mercedes-Benz, she had created an algorithm. Applicant comes in to do a car sales position, and she would output a prediction. This guy's going to sell 50 cars a month, 10 cars a month, 3 cars a month, going to stay around X period of time. She was getting to within 15 to 20% pre-hire.
That is so impressive.
It's like a cheat code, right? By the way, that's why we have contractors. Like if people that are listening know Call Dads, they hire all their people through us. Yeah, they've hired 200 people through our platform. They print technicians now.
Yeah.
They don't compete for talent. They hire, they train. They don't worry about how much money they're spending investing in their technicians because they know they have less than a 20% churn rate coming out of training all those people,
Which is
it's like unheard of.
completely impressive in our industry.
Which, by the way, for your listeners, and I don't mean this to sound like a sales pitch, but I do think it will transform companies, and I care about transforming companies because I care about what's happening in our society with humans. Mm-hmm. This ability to predict who's going to work in your environment is such a cheat code. Like it just solves everything. Anyway, so Mercedes-Benz, she had CrowdStrike, the big cybersecurity company. Yeah. They have a $2 billion valuation. Oh, where I was going with that, to grow our company, 90% of the money that has been invested to grow our companies come directly from customers. Like that just doesn't happen if you're not fixing things. Now, I'm not claiming to be perfect. I'm not claiming we wouldn't have unhappy customers. That's business. But for sure, nobody's more committed to the trades to figure out this thing around human potential. So how did we get into the trades? We were like, well, because originally when I invested in Regina, moved her here to the US, we built a company around her. That was about 6 years ago. I was working with Tommy Mello as a consultant for him, helping him grow his business, and we did well with him. Some people say he's an underperformer. I don't.
I don't know that anybody
I'm
says
kidding.
that.
But the guy's brilliant when it comes to people. So like he can see that sort of thing. And we built a model for his garage door technicians, and he eventually became an investor in our company and helped us grow. But that was the entry to the trades. And I started looking, originally, my background, the sales boss was large enterprise companies. So when I invested in Regina, I was like, well, let's go after, First American Title and Dropbox and the big, companies like, and so we did that. But Tommy got me looking at home service. I'm like, there's this whole section of society that really struggles and where getting a great hire actually has a much bigger impact.
Yes.
The problem is you need a massive amount of data to do prediction. Mm-hmm. Like we're not just looking at a human and going, okay, here are the attributes that make them successful. We want data. And so we partnered with Nexstar. So they have like 1,200 member organizations. Yep. And many of their companies got into a Pathfinder program with us, and they gave us access to all of their employees. And so we assessed all of their employees. When I say assess, that means every employee sat down, took about a 2.5 hour psychographic test, over 450 human attributes that science says you can measure reliably.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was one set of data. I think we have the largest set of data on who makes up humans in the trade from anybody, bar none. But that data by itself isn't that valuable without performance data. So we have this data that, if you think about it, a data column, that's one set of data. On the other side, they gave us all the performance data for those people. So you
get to take all the KPIs.
So we took all the service Titan data. We also got manager ratings for every employee. What we do is we feed that into a machine learning algorithm that says by role, dispatcher, service manager, what's the unique combination of these traits that actually matter over here? And it's a little counterintuitive because people go, oh, well, you just go, who's top performer over here? What traits are they? It's not actually what you're doing. There's way more data on underperformers than top performers. So what we're actually looking for is what's the fatal combination of traits that cause somebody to get stuck in mid-performance or never be a top performer. So we're de-risking. Does that make sense?
It does.
So then for every position, we have 450 psychographic traits over here. That's our intellectual property. That's what Regina's great at. And the algorithm is just saying, here are the 10 that matter and here's the weighting. So now when you have a candidate come in, they're not going to sit for a 2.5-hour test. They'll take a 10-minute test. And we're guessing how do they most map to those people whose performance we know. And then we have some of our clients who stay in what we call our Pathfinder program. They give us performance data so we can continue to improve our models. And there's others that just use our model and make great hires. Yeah, it's fun.
It's scary a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
It is a little bit just because there's so much data, but I mean, how cool to be able to really, because you think about tools in your toolbox, right? And we talk a lot about AI and it being a tool in your toolbox. Talk about DISC, use it as a tool in your toolbox. Gosh, the data you guys must have in order to help.
Is so powerful. And where we're going with it, which will be fun, is we're doing some really cool things. As an example, we don't have this in the system yet, so we won't tell anybody. Don't sign up and go, why doesn't it do this? This is a future thing. But during the hiring process, we have one-way video interviews, meaning your candidate, you ever chase somebody to do an interview, they show up in 5 minutes, you're like, I'm never going to hire this person.
Yeah.
But you're a good human being, so you're going to waste a half hour of your life.
You feel obligated.
You're never going to get back. So you want a vibe check on this person. So imagine this does exist today. Candidate comes in, they get a video from you mentioning things in their resume saying, hey, there's 3 steps. It's automated because we've had overwhelming interest. If you do these 3 things, I can get you routed quickly to the right person. The candidate's going to do those 3 things because it feels real on the front end.
Right.
So they do those 3 things. You get a whole list of, one of them is record your answer by cell phone to these 3 questions. So now you can log in, you can see the person, you have, by the time, none of our clients ever look at a resume. When they come into our system, by the time you look at them, we've given you a prediction, 0 to 100 fit for the role, 0 to 100 their flight risk. We have a skills-based assessment. So if you want to know, does somebody have a basic knowledge of construction or plumbing? We've already assessed that. We've given them a score. And you also have a vibe check. You can look and see, hear them talk, and our AI has analyzed the resume and say, how many years of relevant experience do they have? Are you going to make a better hiring decision with that? And you have that in hand before you ever sit across from a candidate.
What a time saver.
Huge. I had a guy, cleaning company of all things, came up to me at a conference, and I didn't even know him, which is sort of fun to get to the point where you don't know all your customers. It's a little disconcerting, but he comes up and I'm like, are you happy or not happy? Because if you're not happy, it's a you problem. No, that's bad humor. But he just comes up and he's like, I was trying to figure out the ROI, how do I explain the ROI of your system? And he's like, I used to interview, and I forget what his number is. He's like, I used to have 20 interviews to make 4 hires a week.
4 hires a week.
Yeah. And he's like, I now may have 6 interviews to have 5 hires a week.
Yeah.
He's like, I paid somebody $23 an hour to do interviews. You've saved me $40,000 this year just in interview costs.
And that's not even looking at resumes.
Yeah, he's like, that's
sending emails.
Yeah, he's like, that doesn't include, and it doesn't include the better quality candidates he's getting.
Yeah.
So that's the game that people play. In your business, if you're mishiring, you're leaving a 58% growth in your company for sure, unless you're exceptional. But I would just say, if you look at your company, 10 people, and you had to split them A, B, and C, you're probably going to say 2 of them are A players. You're probably going to call them unicorns because you don't believe you can hire them. Like people will say, well, take Alan's numbers out there when we're projecting for next year. Nobody sells like Alan. Like if we could have 10 Alans, we'd be like, imagine who I'd be if we had 10 Alans. You can have 10 Alans.
Right.
That's the new world we're living in. Those are the contractors that are going to win. And by the way, in private equity, say what you will, private equity, I'm not taking a position on this. The one way your non-private equity player is going to win, go back to identity, Unrecruitable. If you're the billboard, you are the brand.
Right.
The human is the brand. And by the way, like Tommy's the brand, right?
Right.
And he sold 41% of his company for $500 million. And he's ready to sell another portion of his business. And I believe that piece will sell by itself as a fraction of it for another $1 billion. Don't quote me on that. But I have it from reliable sources. He's still the brand, even at that size, even though it's being
thousands and thousands of employees. And yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the work to be done, and that's where the payoff is. But it isn't just technology. Tommy, like when we worked together, we put in place his Dream Manager program. We talked about how do you engineer a location so that it's that think, feel, act audit, and people come in. Doesn't matter if they're in Kansas City. They come in. They understand, what A1 is, and they know how to feel and act because he's controlling their thoughts. It's thought control.
So so for anybody who wants to know more about WhoHire,
if people want to find me, the easiest way is thesalesboss.com. Everything's on there. You'll find your way over to Unrecruitable events. You'll find your way over to WhoHire, thesalesboss.com. It sort of starts there. And then I warn you, it is a deep wormhole around putting your mind on fire of how to get better.
Well, and so all that stuff, we'll make sure we'll have it all in the show notes, all the ways to get in touch with you, all the ways to get in touch with WhoHire. One last question. What is the right size company for WhoHire?
So I get that question all the time. What's the cost of a bad hire? Like, if somebody knows that question.
Right? I'm going to say 3 times what you pay them.
Yeah. So
minimum.
The cost to be on our platform, people are going to invest somewhere around $20,000 a year.
Okay.
So in my opinion, if you're hiring 2 people a year, that math is hard for some people because they're cutting us a check that feels real, and this money they're losing doesn't feel real.
Yeah, that shows up on the P&L. That doesn't.
But the truth is,
what does show up on the P&L?
Let's talk about if you have 50 salespeople or 50 installers, wherever you're. I tend to, because of the sales boss, I think of it as the point of connection with the customer. Customer success, salespeople, that's what matters, right? Because without revenue, you don't have anything.
Right.
If you get that part right, everything else. But let's say a company has 50 and they have 10 underperformers, they can sort of carry the underperformers. If you have a team of 6 or 5 or 4, can you afford to have 50% of your team underperforming? Like, I think you should invest more early. And by the way, your HR person isn't even an HR person. It's the owner wearing that hat, and they're not that good at it.
Right.
Right. So they should cut us a check, and that $20,000, they should look at it as it's a replacement for a $75,000 HR person. Like, that's how they got to just.
Except way more data.
Yeah. Way
more data. Way more automation.
Like, we put people on a month-by-month plan. It's $18.95, I think, a month. Pricing changes. And we don't lock people into a contract. It's month by month. We're not designed to be on and off, but I do that for contractors because I'm so convinced that we're going to transform their business, that they're going to continue to pay us even when they're not actively hiring, because our system is automated enough that they can always be fishing.
I'm going to say this as a recovering contractor, you should always be hiring. It should be a constant part of what you're doing. We always called it upgrade season.
That's right.
And it wasn't necessarily for a negative term, but it is one of those things where when you talk about the 80-20 rule, because that's a thing, the below the B's, we're constantly trying to get that moved up. And that's either we're changing our people by training them or helping them get to the next level, or we're changing our people by replacing them with other people and getting them
We
in that spot.
have a guy that runs wholesale for real estate, totally different industry, wholesale for real estate. He's trying to build a team of 5 salespeople, and just his goal was, I'm going to hire one, I'm going to get them going, I'll do a second one, do a third one. He came to our Unrecruitable event. He got the vision. We ended up starting to work together. And I told him it's way harder to hire in 1s and 2s. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, how many do you want? He's like, well, eventually I want 50. Well, that's going to take you a long time in 1s and 2s.
Yeah.
Like, it's so we did some sales boss consulting with him and really architected it out. By June, he's going to have that team of 50, and we started in February.
Oh, nice.
He already has 10 people on his team that are up and producing over $1 million each in revenue, because he's getting the right people. That's the difference. So he's no longer hiring 1s and 2s. Every training, every time he does a hire, he hires 10 people.
Right.
Think about the ability to hire 10 at a time. That changes the math. One, you're going to put them through onboarding. You're going to put them through training. You're going to do extra coaching with new hires. Like, would you rather be doing that 1-on-1 or 1-on-10?
I'll tell you, from the first plumbing company that we owned, we grew it pretty fast as well. And that's what we did. Anytime we hired, it was 10 people. We had them in a 6-week class. It was an onboarding class that we had. And we knew that 70% were going to fall off by the end of it. We knew what the investment was. That it was worth it.
So that's super smart. I would have just added to it, instead of a 70%, let's have a 20% churn out. It's like, if you could have done that in addition, imagine.
Yeah.
Like, and that's real. But smart contractors are hiring in bunches, even if they don't use technology.
Right.
Yeah. We teach a process that we called a talent reveal interview. Think of it like a group interview, but it's like a stage play put on by a psychiatrist. It's so much fun. If your listeners go to salesboss.com/free, there's a whole blueprint. They can just download it. Won't cost them anything. And by the way, do you know who Ben Hardy is? Wrote Who Not How. And I paid him. He came out and did a course for some of my clients. And so that's up for free as well. It's great. Like, how to 10x think about your business. The guy is a genius.
Yeah.
So salesboss.com free, they can get that. That talent reveal interview, Andy, as an example, he goes from 2,200 applicants down to 50 people. They all come in for that interview, and he'll hire 8 to 10 of them. And he has an 80% success rate of people sticking. He wrote me a $2 million check to invest after experiencing it.
Yeah.
Like, people don't write you a $2 million check just because they like you.
Right.
He can see where we're going with this. Like, we are at the forefront of using data. And it's, again, you could hire great people, raw material, because we're not saying this person already has all the experience. It's sort of like if you could go into a room and you could see a bunch of young kids all beating on pots and pans and making music, and you could say, look, if I trained all these kids the same way, gave them the same opportunity, the same, loved on them, like they got all the same, this kid's gonna sing karaoke in the shower, this kid's never gonna sing in public, and this one's gonna be at Carnegie Hall. That's what we're giving you in that. So what are we not looking at? Well, we don't know if they have relationship problems, what I call hygiene, drugs and alcohol, relationships, finance. Like, there's a lot of reasons people don't live up to their potential. You still have to have, that's why you do the face-to-face interview.
Right.
But you better be able to do it correctly. Mm-hmm. I try to teach people, they should look at every hire like a $500,000 decision. And so for my clients, I literally print, you know, the old, like, what do they call it? The, big checks, like sweepstakes check.
Yep.
Just don't make them that big because you're a Walby. But if you just take a check, it's a dummy check. And when your leadership team decides they're going to hire somebody, I want them to make that check out to that person, make it for $500,000, and on the back of it, endorse it. And every person writes, why are the top 3 reasons they believed this person was going to succeed? Just pin it on the wall.
That's a good,
right?
And good
when
tip.
they churn out, take it off the wall, bring it into your executive meeting and flip it over and reread it and look at your hiring process and say, what did we miss? Mm-hmm. And how can we orchestrate our hiring process to not miss it next time? this is just process engineering. You do it in every other area of your business. Why wouldn't you do it in the human part of your business? Like if you had a production line that consistently had a part that was breaking down, you would like trace back to root cause and go, oh, well, this is happening because in our manufacturing process, we don't weld this thing on tight enough. Let's improve the weld. And
Right.
let's do that with our human process.
It's the biggest source of revenue in your business is your people.
And it's just waiting for people to pick it up.
Well, Jonathan, I appreciate it, man. This has been awesome.
It's been great to chat with you.
Yes, absolutely. And all this information will be in the show notes. We will probably have some links in order to get the books too. So you guys can go out and buy a copy of the book and dig in. Is it on Audible?
It's not on Audible yet.
Yes.
But it is on Amazon.
Okay.
I'm going to get it up on Audible. I'd prefer people to read. I know that's hard. But I am going to put it up on Audible.
Yeah.
For your group, we do a 2-day event.
Mm-hmm.
It's normally $9,900 to come to the event. I'll give you a discount code. People can come as your guest.
Perfect.
But they got to come in twos. And the reason is you always have to implement in twos.
Yeah.
Yeah. But people will be on fire when they come.
And it's good accountability.
It's good accountability. Yeah.
The thing with two.
When you come in and you go through our process, and we actually do it at Andy Elliott's location. The value of that is, I think, let's say you're a $2 million, $5 million, I don't know, whatever revenue somebody is, maybe they're 20 million. You don't even build a $2 million company being stupid.
Right.
It's hard. Mm-hmm. So these owners are smart people.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't that they can't do it. It's they've never seen it. They haven't seen the playbook. They haven't seen the pattern. Once they come and see it, they can't unsee it. When you come into Andy's thing and you walk up and you walk through his building and you sit through his sales meetings and you talk to his people, and we do live interviews, and you see it, you'll never do an interview the same way again. Promise you. Like, you just be like, what the heck have I been doing for the last 5 years? It's not because there's, it isn't because they're not capable of it. There's no magic. They just haven't seen the play.
I was going to say, you don't know what you don't know.
That's
and they're going back to what you were talking about at the beginning, is they're just going off what they've learned
good
before.
or bad by comparison.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah. Easy to think that you're great. It's great to think you're a good athlete, if you were a good athlete in high school until you try to play in the NBA.
Right.
then you realize, I got a lot of work.
Killer. Well, I appreciate it, man. And guys,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming and checking it out. And we'll make sure and put all this information into the show notes.
And come see us in Phoenix. The weather is good, except for when it's not.
It's always good.
It's always good. It's a dry heat.
That is a fact. We'll see you guys.
You've been listening to the Freedom Blueprint Podcast. Information is useless if not applied. So take what you've learned and go and implement it. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on social media at Freedom Blueprint for Home Services and hit the website at www.freedomblueprintpodcast.com. See you next time.